Imagine you're a robotics engineer. Not today. Not with a lab full of servo motors and 3D printers and a supercomputer in your pocket. Imagine you're a robotics engineer 2,000 years ago. No electricity, no steel gears mass-produced in a factory, no blueprints passed down from anyone, because nobody has ever done what you're about to do. And your job is to build a door that opens itself. Not with a motor, not with a switch, with fire. You work on it. You test it. You fail and fail and fail again. And then one day, it works. A priest lights a flame on an altar, and across the room, with no one touching them, the temple doors swing open on their own. The crowd gasps. Some of them fall to their knees. They believe they just watched a god open the doors of his own house. They didn't. They watched an engineer. His name was Hero of Alexandria, and what he built 2,000 years ago should not have been possible for another 17 centuries. And doors were the least impressive thing he built. By the end of this video, you'll know why some historians believe this one man was quietly building the future. And nobody around him knew what to do with it. This is Ancoria. And this is where we begin. Let's start with those doors. In the 1st century AD in the great library city of Alexandria, Hero designed a mechanism that used heat from a flame to expand air inside a hidden chamber. That air pushed water into a bucket, the bucket dropped from its own weight, and a rope, wound around a hidden cylinder, pulled the temple doors open. Slowly, silently, like something alive. When the fire went out, the whole thing reversed. The doors closed themselves. No god, no magic. Physics. But here's what should stop you. This works on the same basic idea as a steam engine. Heat turning into motion. Though Hero's version was a simple reaction device, not a direct ancestor of the steam engines that came centuries later. The steam engine that didn't show up again, doing real work until the 1700s. Hero wasn't guessing. He wrote it all down. A text called Pneumatica, describing dozens of devices powered by air, water, and steam pressure. Mechanisms so precise that engineers today can still build working replicas straight from his instructions. He didn't stumble onto this once. He understood the principle well enough to build on it again and again. Which brings us to something you've almost certainly used this week, and had no idea its ancestor is 2,000 years old. Picture a temple in ancient Alexandria. Worshippers line up. Each one drops a coin into a slot at the top of a bronze machine. The coin falls onto a small lever inside. The weight of the coin tips the lever down, which opens a valve. Holy water pours out, exactly enough for one worshipper, no more. Then the lever tips back. The valve closes. The machine resets itself, waiting for the next coin. That is a vending machine, built by Hero of Alexandria, for dispensing holy water. Over 1,800 years before the first coin-operated machine appeared on a train platform in London. Historians studying his writings have confirmed the mechanism works exactly as described. A self-resetting, coin-triggered dispenser using nothing but gravity and leverage. Somebody in the ancient world put a coin in a slot and got something back automatically. And it would take almost 2,000 years before humanity thought to do that again at scale. Now here's where it gets almost impossible to believe. Hero didn't just build machines that opened doors and dispensed water. He built an engine. It was called the Aeolipile, a hollow sphere, mounted on an axle with 2 bent nozzles pointing in opposite directions. Fill it with water, set it above a fire. As the water boils, steam shoots out through the nozzles, and the sphere spins. Fast. This is, mechanically, an early bladeless version of a steam turbine. The same core principle that powers modern power plants generating electricity for entire cities. Hero built one. In a workshop in Alexandria, 2,000 years ago. He described it in his own writing as a curiosity, a demonstration, something to entertain and amaze. Not a source of power, not a tool for labor, a toy. And that's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. He had the mechanism for the steam engine 1,700 years before it changed the world. He just never scaled it up. Nobody did. Because in a world built entirely on slave labor and human hands, there was no economic reason to industrialize. The genius wasn't missing. The need wasn't there yet. And that idea, that the world can have the tool and not the reason, is more unsettling than any lost recipe. Because it means the only thing standing between an ancient workshop and an industrial revolution wasn't intelligence. It was timing. Now stay with me, because the next one is the one almost nobody knows about. And it might be the most impressive of all. Hero built a machine that could measure distance. Automatically. Imagine a Roman chariot rolling down a long stretch of road. Attached to one of its wheels, a series of interlocking gears, each one turning slower than the last, counting every single rotation of that wheel. After a fixed number of rotations, a small pebble would drop into a container. One pebble for every mile traveled. At the end of the journey, you didn't have to guess how far you'd gone, you counted the pebbles. This device is called the hodometer, and it is mechanically the direct ancestor of the odometer sitting in your car's dashboard right now. Hero didn't invent the basic concept alone. Earlier engineers had theorized it, but his design refined it into something that actually worked, using a precise gear ratio to convert wheel rotations into accurate distance. A self-counting machine, built from bronze and gravity, measuring the exact same thing your car measures today, 2,000 years before cars existed. There's one more thing Hero built, and it might be the strangest of all. A theater. Not a building, a machine. A wooden cart, about waist-high, powered entirely by a slowly descending weight, like an ancient grandfather clock. As the weight fell, it turned an axle. The axle pulled a series of ropes, wound in a specific, deliberate sequence, and tiny mechanical figures moved. A miniature scene played out in front of an audience. Automatically. Characters appeared, doors opened, fire flickered. A full sequence unfolding on its own, timed precisely by the ropes wound around that axle. Hero had essentially written a program. Not in code, in rope and gravity. But the principle is identical to what runs inside your phone right now. A predetermined sequence of instructions, executed automatically, without a human hand guiding each step. Historians who study early automata call it one of the earliest known examples of programmable machinery in human history. A self-running puppet show in ancient Alexandria, built from the same logic that would one day launch rockets and run your microwave. So who was this man? Hero wasn't a mystic. He wasn't chasing magic. He was a teacher, running something close to a technical academy, writing manuals so other engineers could replicate his work. He wanted this knowledge to spread, and in some ways, it did. His writings survived. Engineers today can still read them. But the world he handed those ideas to wasn't ready to use them the way we would. Somewhere, right now, someone is sitting with something extraordinary in their hands. An idea, a skill, a small, quiet piece of genius. And using it for something far smaller than it deserves. A parent solving a problem nobody will ever know about. Someone at a desk building something brilliant that only 3 people will ever see. That is not a failure. That is what Hero of Alexandria's whole life looks like if you're honest about it. He built the future and used it to make a door swing open for a god who wasn't really there. Not because he was foolish, because that's what the moment in front of him needed. We are not so different. We have always been capable of more than the world around us asks for. Hero knew that 2,000 years ago, standing in a workshop in Alexandria, watching a bronze sphere spin on nothing but steam. Maybe it's worth remembering that the next time something extraordinary sits quietly in your own hands, waiting. Remember the doors that opened like magic, and were really just fire and water. Remember the coin that bought a blessing, before it ever bought anything else. Remember the sphere that spun with the same force that now lights entire cities. Remember the pebbles that counted a distance no one had to guess. Remember the tiny theater that ran itself, scene by scene, with no hand behind the curtain. Hero was not ahead of his time. He was exactly on time. The world just hadn't caught up yet. This is Ancoria. We will see you in the next one.